A biased AI model can lead to regulatory fines and lost contracts, often without a single security breach. Master Domain 4 and Domain 5, responsible AI and security. And you'll be the person building AI people actually trust and nailing about a third of your AIF-C01 score. Pick up the AWS model card template from their Responsible AI page today to see what transparency looks like. Before we dive in, open the AWS Responsible AI page and download the model card template so you can follow along with a real transparency document. Domains 4 and 5 together form a major part of the AIF-C01 exam, easily a quarter to a third of your total score. That's too many points to ignore. Master these domains and you'll have a solid foundation for the rest of the test. A major tech company scrapped its AI recruiting tool after it systematically downgraded female candidates. The cause? No one audited the training data for gender bias. A simple bias check using SageMaker Clarify could have prevented the disaster and saved millions. Learn to audit. Start with SageMaker Clarify's pre-training bias metrics. Bias isn't just bad data. It's a systematic error that creeps in at collection, labeling, or algorithm choice. Cleaning data won't save you if proxy variables like zip code silently stand in for protected attributes. AI models can fall prey to several common bias categories: selection bias, measurement bias, label bias, confirmation bias, and algorithmic bias. Understanding these will help you spot them in real datasets. Grab a sample dataset and run SageMaker Clarify to see bias metrics firsthand. That's your concrete step this week. To prove a model is fair, you need numbers, not feelings. Demographic parity, equalized odds, and equal opportunity all trace back to the confusion matrix. Individual fairness takes a different approach, comparing similar individuals directly. Know for the exam how each metric is calculated and what trade-offs they force. Demographic parity means your AI must pass the blink test. If 10% of men are selected, 10% of women must be selected too. It ignores accuracy, purely a headcount check. Demographic parity ensures equal selection rates, but can let unqualified candidates through. Equal opportunity, on the other hand, verifies that qualified individuals are found at a similar rate across groups, a more accurate fairness metric when you have ground truth data available. Equalized odds demands both true positive and false positive rates be equal across groups. No cutting corners. It's the hardest to achieve, but the one that truly prevents a lazy model that just rubber stamps one group to hit a quota. In theory, it's mathematically impossible to satisfy all fairness definitions at once unless base rates are equal across groups. A nuance that AIF-C01 questions may test. SageMaker Clarify can help you measure pre-training bias, highlighting imbalances and distribution differences across groups at a low per-analysis cost. Catching bias early prevents costly rework later. Jump into the AWS console, spin up a Clarify job on a sample dataset and see your first bias report today. Bias mitigation hits 3 stages. Pre-processing, reweighting, SMOTE. In-processing, adversarial debiasing built into the loss function. Post-processing, threshold adjustment per group. Libraries like AI Fairness 360 can help implement these techniques. Check the latest documentation for supported methods. SMOTE is a popular technique to oversample minority classes in your dataset, often just a click or a line of code. It balances data fast, but watch out. Oversampling can cause overfitting. Always validate on truly unseen test data. Try SMOTE in your data wrangling tool today and check the class distribution before model training. A loan officer stares at a rejected application. Without an explanation, it's just a computer says no black box. Explainability isn't just a regulatory checkbox. It's how you debug your model and keep stakeholders' trust. SHAP, Shapley Additive Explanations, uses game theory to fairly distribute a prediction among features. Here, income adds 15%, credit score subtracts 10%, landing at a 70% loan approval probability, a waterfall chart in action. Lime perturbs inputs around a single data point to fit a simple linear model. It's fast and great for a quick sanity check, but it only explains that one prediction, unlike SHAP, which can offer broader dataset-level insights. Here's a heuristic. Need a regulatory report for all predictions? SHAP. Quick debug of one weird result? LIME. Time under 1 second? LIME. In typical benchmarks, LIME tends to be faster, but always benchmark with your own model. This bar chart shows rough runtime differences. A model card isn't optional for production AI. Many teams treat it as best practice. List intended use, subgroup metrics, limitations, and ethical considerations. AWS provides tools like SageMaker model cards to document this. Start one today. That's your concrete step. Create a model card for your last project. Interest in AI transparency reporting has steadily increased, and demand for responsible AI skills is surging dramatically. Job postings referencing model cards or fairness metrics are on the rise, reflecting the industry's growing focus on accountability. Stay ahead by monitoring the evolving ISO IEC-4001 standard. It's becoming the global benchmark for AI management. Common dimensions discussed in the AWS exam include fairness, explainability, privacy, robustness, transparency, and governance. Understand what each dimension means and know that AWS offers tools that can help. Always check the latest documentation for official service-to-dimension mapping. Start by reading AWS's well-architected framework documentation on responsible AI. AWS AI service cards provide transparency documentation for services like recognition and comprehend, helping you understand known limitations and responsible use guidance. While content varies, they generally highlight important considerations. Spend 10 minutes reading the relevant card before you deploy. It'll save you hours of debugging. Your training data, model weights, and inference endpoints are all new attack surfaces. Secure them across confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Encrypt data, ensure no tampering, keep models serving. Least privilege. Give only what's needed. 3 roles. Data scientist reads S3, trains, but can't delete models. ML engineer deploys and monitors. Auditor has read only CloudTrail. IAM policies with conditions like resource tags enforce this. IAM policy. Allow SageMaker actions only on dev-tagged resources. Deny prod. Use conditions for region and VPC endpoints to lock down notebook instances. This prevents accidental access to production models. Copy the pattern from AWS docs. Encryption essentials. Server-side encryption on S3, at least SSE S3. Encrypt SageMaker volumes with KMS. Enforce TLS everywhere. Block unencrypted S3 requests with bucket policies. 3 steps to prevent data leaks. AWS KMS is commonly used for most AI workloads. It's fully managed and offers a generous free tier. Check current AWS pricing. Cloud HSM provides dedicated hardware you manage, often required for the most stringent regulatory obligations. For the exam, know the difference. Isolate AI workloads in a private subnet. Use a VPC endpoint for S3 so training traffic stays on AWS network. Restrict ingress with a network ACL to a bastion host. Model artifacts stay internal. That's the exam's network isolation pattern. Private link keeps traffic off the internet. VPC endpoints for S3 and SageMaker runtime keep notebooks and endpoints internal. For the exam, restricting studio access? Answer, VPC only mode, lock it down. Prompt injection is a top risk in the OWASP LLM Top 10. A malicious prompt can trick a model into leaking its system prompt. Defend with Amazon Bedrock guardrails and input sanitization. Exam tip, always validate LLM inputs. Insecure output handling is the silent killer. If you take what the model spits out and directly inject it into a web page or a shell command, you're allowing remote code execution. Always treat LLM output as untrusted, no exceptions. Training data poisoning. Attackers slip bad samples into your dataset, like mislabeled images. The model learns wrong patterns. Defend by validating data sources, monitoring for distribution shifts, and using data quality tools. Understand the concept for the exam. Model theft lets attackers clone your intellectual property by repeatedly querying your endpoint. Inversion attacks go further. They reconstruct actual training data from predictions. Rate limiting and differential privacy are your best countermeasures. Supply chain attacks on ML are real. Implement strong security practices inspired by supply chain integrity frameworks. Sign your artifacts, use trusted base images, run security scans, and maintain a software bill of materials. Artifact signing services and security scanning can help establish a provable chain of custody. That way, you know exactly what's in your model pipeline and who put it there. Here's the compliance mistake that gets AI projects shut down overnight. Treating frameworks like SOC 2 as optional. GDPR fines can reach millions of euros per violation, and that's for a single violation. Compliance isn't a checkbox, it's the floor. The exam expects you to know that certain AI services can support HIPAA workloads, but not all are eligible by default. Always check the BA list before you build, and pull official reports from AWS Artifact. That's how you keep a project alive. Let's pause for a reality check. Recently, a major tech company was hit with a record privacy fine that could sink entire AI divisions. This exam isn't just about technical trivia, it's about understanding the regulatory landmines that can end your career. Many exam takers miss the fact that AWS AI services, while powerful, still require you to configure compliance controls. The cloud provider's security model does not automatically make you compliant. Keep that in mind as we dive into the governance framework. Explainability gaps are the fastest way to fail a GDPR audit. If your model denies a loan and you can't justify it, you face serious fines. The exam wants you to know that tools like SHAP and Lime aren't just nice to have. They're how you demonstrate compliance and keep your deployment alive in the EU. The EU AI Act introduces a risk-based framework that classifies AI systems into tiers, ranging from banned to minimal risk. For the exam, focus on understanding the general principles. Higher-risk applications face stricter documentation, bias testing, and human oversight requirements. Know that compliance obligations scale with risk, not with model size. Your model isn't a houseplant. If you deploy and walk away, it's going to quietly break. A financial fraud model can degrade over time because the world changes. Continuous monitoring for data drift, quality, and bias is what keeps your AI trustworthy and compliant. Data drift means your input stats have moved. KS statistic catches that. Concept drift is sneakier. The same input now means something different. Fraud patterns evolve, so your old labels become obsolete. Use model quality metrics to spot concept drift and be prepared to relabel. A recent record-setting privacy fine showed that regulatory action against AI systems is accelerating, and the EU's AI Act will only intensify the scrutiny. That's why Amazon's SageMaker Model Monitor matters. It can compare live inference inputs against a training baseline and alert you when metrics deviate, catching drift before it becomes a regulatory disaster. Configure CloudWatch alarms to get notified instantly. A typical drift detection workflow has 3 steps. Capture production data, compute a baseline from your training set, then run a monitoring job that compares the live distribution using the KS statistic. Most candidates forget to establish the baseline, and that's exactly the detail the exam will ask about. A large majority of data breaches involve the human element, which is why auditable logs are non-negotiable. AWS CloudTrail. Logs API calls for key AI services, giving you visibility into data prep, training, and model monitoring activities. That audit trail proves to regulators that you followed best practices. SageMaker Model Registry is your governance backbone. It versions models, enforces approval stages, and ensures bias and explainability checks pass before a model goes live. Exam trick. Model Registry handles versioning and workflow, not drift detection. Don't confuse it with Model Monitor. The 4 eyes principle adds a human checkpoint before a model goes live. Inside a SageMaker pipeline, a Lambda function posts evaluation results to Slack. A reviewer inspects the bias and accuracy reports, then approves, creating a permanent human audit trail that satisfies compliance auditors. Skip this, and your next audit will get ugly. Every responsible AI project hits these 10 non-negotiables, from bias detection with Clarify and publishing model cards to continuous monitoring and ethics reviews. Miss one, and an auditor will flag you, and the exam will test whether you know exactly which item is missing. Grab the full printable checklist from the link in the description. Confusing these two concepts can lead to biased outcomes and potential legal trouble. Demographic parity focuses on equal positive decision rates across groups, regardless of accuracy. Equalized odds goes further. It demands equal error rates, balancing fairness with real predictive performance. When the exam asks which metric is most robust or makes the fewest assumptions, equalized odds is the gold standard. Nail this distinction now. Most candidates assume SageMaker Clarify only detects bias. Big mistake. Clarify also produces SHAP-based feature importance and partial dependence plots. So if the exam asks to explain a model's unexpected decision, Clarify is the answer not because of bias detection, but because of its full explainability suite. Memorize, Clarify, or SEER's bias plus explainability. According to the 2023 Verizon DBIR, over 80% of web application breaches involved stolen credentials, not cracked ciphers. Yet candidates still pick enable encryption and call it a day. The exam loves to say data is already encrypted at rest and in transit, then ask what else is needed. The missing piece is defense in depth. IAM least privilege, network isolation inside a VPC, and always-on logging via CloudTrail and Model Monitor. Hands-on practice consistently outperforms passive watching when it comes to exam recall. Your immediate next step: spin up a free tier SageMaker instance, feed it the UCI adult dataset, and run a bias analysis through a SageMaker Clarify notebook. That 20-minute exercise will cement these concepts far deeper than reading or watching alone. The direct link to that lab is in the description. In recent years, GDPR fines have skyrocketed, with regulators issuing record penalties. A stark reminder that compliance is non-negotiable. That's why the AIF-C01 exam emphasizes defense in depth across encryption, IAM, VPC, and logging. The architecture you must defend is exactly this: encrypted data, least privilege IAM, VPC isolation, CloudTrail, Model Monitor, and governance approvals. Skip any layer and you open a door. And in a world of massive fines, that door can cost your company everything. ProPublica's investigation found the Compass algorithm mislabeled black defendants as high risk nearly twice as often as white defendants. A catastrophic failure of fairness. If you see a question about parole, sentencing, or any life-altering automated decision, the answer is almost always equalized odds. It forces the false positive rate to be identical across groups, so the model's mistakes don't hit one community harder than another. On the AIF-C01, equalized odds is the bulletproof choice when stakes are highest. Research shows biased hiring algorithms can screen out 50% of qualified minority candidates before a human even sees a resume. That's why AWS solutions architects never reinvent the wheel. They reach for these 4 tools: FairLearn for Python-driven mitigation, AIF-360 for vetted baselines, SageMaker, Clarify for one-click bias monitoring inside AWS, and fairness-aware boosting like XGBoost's constraints. Always verify the latest library support. The exam will mix them up in a multiple-answer scenario. The EU's AI Act could impose fines as high as a significant percentage of global turnover. Explainability isn't optional, it's mandated. For images, GradCam overlays heat maps to show exactly which pixels swayed the decision. For text, SHAP assigns an importance score to every word, making black box NLP models auditable. SageMaker Clarify provides bias and explainability features. For tabular data, SHAP is commonly used, and Clarify may offer integration for certain model types. Always check the latest documentation to see the current scope. as the exam may test your awareness that Clarify handles unstructured data as well. Differential privacy adds calibrated noise, so an attacker can't infer whether a specific person's data was used. To meet HIPAA or GDPR compliance, you might consider implementing privacy-preserving techniques in SageMaker. Many frameworks and libraries offer differential privacy support, though you should always verify current AWS integration for your specific workload. Even while processing, your data can be protected using AWS Nitro Enclaves, a dedicated, isolated compute environment. For highly regulated workloads, you might explore hosting inference in isolated environments like enclaves. Check AWS's latest documentation for SageMaker and Bedrock support, as capabilities evolve quickly. Use Bedrock when you're prototyping with non-sensitive data. It's fast, managed, and per-token pricing is cheap. Switch to SageMaker in a VPC the moment PII or compliance enters the picture. The extra ops are worth the legal safety. Under GDPR, fines can reach tens of millions of euros, or a significant percentage of global annual turnover. That's enough to wipe out a department's budget. Meanwhile, AWS KMS costs only a few dollars per key per month. Investing in encryption and access controls is a fraction of a percent of the penalty you'd pay for a breach. When pitching to your boss, frame it as risk reduction. Biased models degrade accuracy and cost customers. Emphasize that fairness is a business risk mitigation strategy, not just ethics. Explore real-world case studies from fairness toolkits like AI Fairness 360 to see how fairness metrics translate to real-world risk reduction. In your next interview, hit them with this precise framework. First, measure bias with Clarify. Second, pick the right metric like equal opportunity. Third, apply pre-processing or in-training mitigations. Fourth, lock it all into a model card. That's the structured answer that separates talkers from practitioners. Move governance from a manual review gate to an automated CI/CD pipeline. Your code commits, builds, trains, and then the real magic. Evaluate automatically checks for bias and explainability. Only if it passes do you register and canary deploy, saving weeks of review theater. Look for these valuable resources: the well-architected machine learning lens, the official AWS Responsible AI white paper, model card templates from GitHub, and SageMaker workshops on responsible AI. They can jumpstart your governance practice in an afternoon. Verify the links and latest versions while you're at it. Here's the type of scenario you'll see. A healthcare startup needs to deploy a model under HIPAA. Ask yourself, does the option include a BAA and KMS encryption? If not, cross it out instantly. Eliminate any option without a BAA. Then ensure KMS encryption and VPC. The correct answer: SageMaker, KMS, VPC endpoint, and a BAA on the account. Don't get distracted by shiny extra services. True or false? SageMaker Model Monitor can detect data and concept drift? Absolutely true. Next, is recognition automatically HIPAA eligible for everything? That's a common misconception. HIPAA compliance depends on service configuration and a signed business associate agreement. Check AWS's latest compliance documentation to confirm specific service eligibility. These trap the unprepared. Even with limited time, concentrating on these areas gives you the highest leverage: bias detection and metrics, SageMaker Clarify, IAM roles plus KMS encryption, compliance mapping like HIPAA and GDPR, and model drift monitoring. These topics appear regularly in Domain 4 and 5 questions. Prioritize them to maximize your study efficiency. 3 days for responsible AI with Clarify, 3 days for security with VPC and KMS. Then, day 7, practice exams. 1 week, both domains conquered. Don't pay for practice tests yet. Explore any available official practice exams on AWS Skill Builder, as well as sample questions in exam guides. The links you need are in the description. Grab them, set a timer, and learn from each mistake. That's the fastest way to close knowledge gaps. The AI Practitioner is your launchpad. As you move toward the AWS ML specialty, the responsible AI concepts you've learned will serve you well. A solid foundation now can accelerate your future certification journey. It's a strategic step forward. Don't just add the badge, make noise. Post the AI safety checklist you learned, tag it right, and offer a free peer review of someone's model card. That's how you turn a certification into a personal brand and your next job lead. The classic mistake for AIF-C01, memorizing without hands-on. The exam tests scenario-based judgment. You can't reason through without realistic hands-on experience. Spend quality time in the free tier building and monitoring models with SageMaker, Clarify, and IAM. That hands-on intuition is what separates passing from failing. Take a peek at the Model Fairness dashboard you can set up with SageMaker Model Monitor. With pre-built metrics for data quality, bias detection, and feature attribution, you'll see how easy it is to track model trust over time. You can configure automatic alerts if any key metric slips, giving you hands-on experience with responsible AI monitoring. Governance can't be bolted on later. Start with a simple rule. Every model must pass a fairness check in SageMaker Clarify before it goes live. Add that to your team's definition of done, and suddenly responsible AI becomes part of your culture, not a last-minute panic. If you're looking for a foundational document, consider the AWS Responsible AI White Paper. It covers the principles and practices that align closely with Domain 4's content. Check the latest version through AWS documentation. Grab the link in the description. Your cheat sheet for real-world responsible AI. 1. SageMaker. Clarify for bias mitigation. 2. SHAP and Lime for explainability. 3. IAM, KMS, VPC. Private link for security. 4. HIPAA eligible services. 5. Model registry, monitor, CloudTrail for governance. Pop quiz. Pause the video right here. Question 1. Which fairness metric is also known as statistical parity? 2. Which AWS service detects data drift? And 3. True or false? CloudTrail primarily logs API calls, and for inference data, you typically rely on other services. The exact division of monitoring responsibilities can vary, so check the latest AWS documentation. Answers are coming in the next 5 seconds. It's important to distinguish statistical parity from equal opportunity. Statistical parity is demographic parity, same outcome percentage regardless of truth. Equal opportunity demands equal true positive rates. Many candidates confuse these, so make sure you know the difference. CloudTrail is primarily for API-level auditing, tracking who did what and when. However, the predictions and input data processed by your models might not always be captured by CloudTrail alone. For monitoring data drift and inference quality, services like SageMaker Model Monitor are designed to complement CloudTrail, providing visibility into the actual model inputs and outputs. Always consult the latest AWS documentation to understand the precise boundaries of each service, because the exam expects you to know which tool handles each monitoring layer. Your next step: explore the free generative AI learning content on AWS Skill Builder. It'll reinforce key governance concepts and give you a credential to showcase on LinkedIn, a solid proof point that you understand responsible AI governance. Cement the concepts in 60 seconds. Launch SageMaker Studio in AWS free tier. Run the Clarify sample notebook. One click to internalize bias detection, explainability, and governance. Link in description.